The NFL prides itself on brotherhood. But when that code gets violated, it turns into a massive spectacle.
It comes months after a man accused the five-time Pro Bowler on social media of having an affair with his wife.
We're back now with that lawsuit accusing an NFL player of seducing someone else's wife.
Here are the NFL stars who crossed the line with other players' wives. DeMarco Murray. This guy was an absolute unit for the Cowboys' Offensive Player of the Year in 2014 and a total icon. However, during that same year, he grabbed headlines for non-football reasons. A rumored fling with an old teammate's lady. The mess started when Brennan Clay, an ex-Oklahoma Sooners runner and Murray's college buddy, went public with claims that Murray was sleeping with his wife, Gina D'Agostini. It began with vague tweets, but quickly spiraled into one of the messiest gossip storms the league has ever seen. Back in November 2014, Clay started posting about infidelity and trust issues. A few days later, he dropped Murray, claiming he found over 50 graphic texts and pics on his wife's old device. He even dropped the receipts on X. One message, supposedly from Murray, asked, "So I can have you in your bed now?" Gina allegedly hit back with, "Is that where you want to have me?" And get this, it gets grimy. These texts were reportedly sent while Clay was at training camp, meaning Murray was allegedly in Clay's own bed. Clay noted that Murray was saved in her contacts as spray tan, a jab at his complexion. Once those screenshots went viral, Clay declared he was filing for divorce, calling the whole thing absolutely revolting. He stated plainly, "So DeMarco Murray was having an affair with my wife. I am done." Later, he told TMZ he was completely floored by the discovery, unable to grasp that his close friend would stab him in the back. Shortly after, Gina filed divorce papers, citing personality conflicts. Then, the plot thickened. Clay did a complete 180. He tweeted a photo with his wife, captioning it, "Everyone deserves a second chance, including myself." He claimed it was all a big misunderstanding. Murray, for his part, kept his mouth shut. His camp said he was locked in on the game, not the noise. While Murray kept shining, Clay basically disappeared from the radar. Next up, another legend who couldn't stay faithful, Steve Smith Sr. Steve Smith Sr. was arguably one of the grittiest receivers to ever lace them up. A five-time Pro Bowler who wrecked defenses with pure aggression and skill. Yet, long after hanging up his cleats, the Panthers icon landed in a sticky situation that stunned the fan base and the network. In early 2024, a guy named Antonio Tony Martinez sued Smith, alleging a month-long fling with his wife, Nicole Martinez, a Ravens band staffer. The suit sought over $100,000, citing North Carolina's alienation of affection statute. Court docs say Smith crossed paths with Nicole while shooting a segment for his show, the NFL's Most Interesting Jobs, right there at the Ravens HQ. After that intro, the texts started flying innocent at first, then deep, and finally, crossing the line. A few months down the road, Smith was back in Baltimore for a playoff showdown. That weekend, Nicole allegedly visited his hotel. One text reportedly read, "I haven't felt that spark in years." When Tony Martinez found the chat logs, he saw red. He tracked Smith down and recorded the face-off. "You have been with my wife. Bro, what you got to say for yourself?" Smith allegedly mumbled a soft, "I am sorry." Tony then blasted the explicit screenshots and the audio online, igniting a firestorm among fans. He argued the affair didn't just wreck his home, but also broke Ravens rules since his wife was an employee. Smith, married to his college love, Angie, since 2001 with 4 kids, didn't say a peep. Journalists tried reaching his agents, the network, and his charity, but got nothing but silence. The complaint hit him with alienation of affection, emotional distress, and punitive damages. Moving on to a heavy hitter who created a scandal too big to ignore. Fletcher Cox. This guy was a beast on the defensive line. We're talking a Super Bowl champ, 6-time Pro Bowler, and the anchor of the Eagles' D for a decade. However, off the gridiron, Cox got tangled in a mess involving another man's spouse that had zero to do with football. Back in 2017, a guy from North Carolina, a former leatherneck named Joshua Jeffs, slapped Cox with a lawsuit, claiming the guy stole his wife, Catherine Jeffs. Court papers spill the tea. The spark lit up in April 2017. right when Catherine flew out to Philly for work. That's ground zero, according to Jeffs, where the fling kicked off and his vows went up in smoke. The filing alleges she and Cox kept the heat rising over Snapchat, swapping steamy texts and racy snapshots. One alleged text from Catherine didn't mince words, "I'm really into you. We'd make some damn beautiful babies." Cox fired back, "I want to get you pregnant." Jeff says the truth hit him months later when he scrolled through her phone. He called her out on the spot, demanding she cut ties and unfollow Cox on Instagram immediately. Instead, she hit the block button on her husband and packed her bags for Philadelphia, right where Cox had a place. Crushed and publicly shamed, Jeffs retaliated with a $50,000 lawsuit against Cox for alienation of affection. It's an old-school legal weapon in North Carolina, one of the few places where you can actually sue a homewrecker for wrecking a happy home. The saga went viral nationwide, landing Jeffs a spot on Good Morning America, where he lamented, "He basically ruined my life. I truly believed I was going to spend the rest of my days with this woman." Cox's legal team clapped back, insisting it was all consensual and claiming Catherine never even mentioned a ring on her finger. Cox argued it wasn't real love and swore no physical hookups happened in North Carolina, just digital flirting. By mid-2018, they hushed it up with a confidential deal. Neither side owned up to anything, and the payout remains a secret. But the wreckage was real. Now, let's pivot to an NFL star entangled in an even crazier mess. Marcus Allen. We're talking about one of the most versatile running backs to ever lace up cleats in the league. Heisman hardware, Super Bowl MVP, league MVP. The guy was an absolute machine on the gridiron. But beneath the polished reputation and the gold jacket career, Marcus was drowning in one of football's darkest controversies, a scandal that dragged him straight into the lethal orbit of O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown. The skeletons came tumbling out in the gritty doc O.J. Made in America, when Simpson's ex-agent, Mike Gilbert, dropped a massive truth bomb. He claimed that after Nicole finally cut O.J. loose, Simpson snapped, barking at her, "You ever see Marcus again, and I will kill you." Whispers had been circulating for ages that Marcus and Nicole were more than just friends. They ran in the same glitzy Hollywood circles and shared those deep roots in the USC football dynasty that O.J. used to rule. Nicole's private journal even spilled how Marcus made her feel gorgeous, hot, and brilliant emotions she claimed were totally missing with Simpson. The kicker, Marcus was hitched to Catherine Edwards back then, yeah. The same Catherine who later stirred the pot on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Nicole even confessed on paper that she really should have considered Catherine's feelings before getting tangled up with Marcus. Faye Resnick, one of Nicole's tightest confidantes, backed up the affair allegations in her tell-all book, Nicole Brown Simpson, The Private Diary of a Life Interrupted. She alleged Nicole admitted to sleeping with Marcus, claiming O.J. went nuclear with jealousy. Warning, if you're ever with Marcus again, I won't be able to control myself. Simpson saw Marcus as more than a buddy. He was a protege. They shared an alma mater, a position, and the spotlight. Finding out his ex-wife was hooking up with the guy he mentored cut deeper than any other betrayal, according to insiders. When pressed about it years down the line, Marcus brushed it off, labeling the whole thing as blown-out gossip. Yet Simpson's own suicide note painted a different picture, Marcus. "You've got a great lady in Catherine. Don't mess it up." Flipping the script, this next player stumbled into a chaotic love wreck. Dax Milne wasn't exactly a household name, just a seventh-rounder fighting for a roster spot in Washington. But come 2022, he was suddenly the main character on football Twitter for one very specific reason. He started seeing his best bud's ex-girlfriend. See, Dax used to bunk with Zach Wilson back at BYU. These guys were inseparable teammates. Best friends, basically blood brothers. They lived, trained, and grinded for the NFL together. But that brotherhood imploded when Dax hooked up with Wilson's longtime flame, Abby Guile. Zach and Abby were high school sweethearts. She was right there at the draft, screaming when the Jets picked him second overall. Things fizzled out quietly in early 2022, until Milne dropped a bombshell photo on Instagram. It showed him locking fingers with a mystery girl, captioned simply, "Word on the street." Sleuths figured out fast that the girl was Abby Guile, and the web went absolutely nuclear. Critics instantly slapped a homie hopper label on Guile for jumping between friends. But instead of laying low, she clapped back hard. In a now-deleted comment, Guile accused Zach Wilson of sleeping with his mom's best friend, dubbing him the Times Actual Times homie hopper. That one little reply turned a messy triangle into the juiciest NFL gossip in years. The memes were unstoppable. Fans cracked jokes about Wilson playing for the Cougars, and even legends like Chad Johnson chimed in, tweeting that Wilson was the GOAT. Wilson, for his part, went radio silent, later cracking a joke about having terrible reception when pressed for answers. Down at Washington's camp, the crowd absolutely roasted Milne, screaming, "Mr. Steal Your Girl," every single time he hauled in a catch. That tight bond he and Wilson once shared completely incinerated. The social media unfollows were immediate, and insiders confirmed not a word had been exchanged since the fallout. Yet Dax and Abby weathered the storm together. Come 2024, they put a ring on it, sharing seaside snaps that looked eerily similar to the photo that sparked the whole mess. Next on the list, we have got a star wideout who landed smack in the middle of a scandal involving a teammate's spouse, Golden Tate. The guy was a legitimate baller Super Bowl ring holder, Pro Bowl selection, and a key weapon for Seattle. But back in 2014, his reputation took a hit from one of the league's wildest rumors, an alleged fling with Russell Wilson's better half. The drama kicked off right after the Seahawks hoisted the Lombardi Trophy, back when Wilson was still hitched to his high school flame. Ashton meme. They had walked down the aisle in 2012, just moments before Wilson became a household name. Yet, barely 2 years in, they split abruptly, and the timing raised more than a few eyebrows. The rumor mill spun out of control, whispering that Ashton had stepped out on Wilson with none other than his teammate, Golden Tate. Tate wasted no time firing back, labeling the accusations as total nonsense, laughable, and completely fabricated. He went as far as penning an essay called "Silence Isn't Golden," trying to put a lid on the chatter. He clarified that Ashton was actually besties with his own girlfriend at the time, Elise, who is now his wife. He insisted the whole affair narrative was pure fantasy, while Wilson chose to neither confirm nor deny a single thing. He kept his mouth shut, locked in on the game, and shielded his private life. But the narrative had already taken root. Tate turned into the villain, getting hammered by trolls online while insiders whispered that Wilson wanted him out of the building. Sure enough, Seattle let Tate walk right after that championship run, and years later, he spilled the tea on the KJ All Day podcast. Chatting with his old teammate KJ Wright, he admitted holding a grudge for years, feeling stabbed in the back because Wilson never stood up for him. Tate explained, "Russ and I were boys. He hung out at my in-laws' place, and we even celebrated birthdays together. When the story exploded, I hit him up to clear the air, and he gave me nothing." Tate described how that shadow trailed him everywhere. It dogged him all the way to Detroit after he inked that $31 million deal, with fans at Lions games screaming nastiness at his wife. His family could not catch a break from the noise, and he admitted it stung. It was a lie, but it was a lie that stuck. Fast forward to now. Tate is a family man. Wilson is with Sierra, and Ashton has practically vanished. So, was there any truth to the betrayal? You tell me. All right, let us shift gears to another crazy saga involving Colin Kaepernick. Long before he became the face of activism in the league, Kaepernick was already stirring the pot inside his own locker room. It wasn't politics back then, but something deeply personal involving his old teammate, linebacker Aldon Smith. Smith was a monster on the 49ers defense and, for a time, one of Kaepernick's tightest crew members. But that brotherhood dissolved into one of the messiest feuds the league has ever seen, centered entirely around Nessa Diab. The famous MTV and radio personality had been dating Smith, but barely a heartbeat after they called it quits. She was spotted with Kaepernick. The timeline looked incredibly shady, and whispers in the locker room suggested the two had been cozying up way before the breakup. The prevailing theory was that things heated up while she was still with Aldon, and by 2015, the tension boiled over. It culminated in a legitimate scrap on the practice field between Smith and Kaepernick. Witnesses claimed fists were flying and guys had to jump in to pull them apart. And that same year marked the beginning of the end for Smith. His run with San Francisco came to a screeching halt after a string of off-field issues got him cut. But the bad blood didn't just disappear. Players admitted that the friction with Kaepernick helped shatter the team's vibe. And a few months down the line, the couple went public. Kaepernick stepped out with Nessa at a charity gala, confirming exactly what everyone had been guessing. The quarterback was officially with his former teammate's old flame. But despite the drama, their bond only tightened. While the league debated whether he broke the bro code, Kaepernick kept his head in the playbook. Then came 2016, when he made massive waves by taking a knee during the anthem, setting off a firestorm across the country. Funny enough, Nessa was actually a major driving force behind that shift in his perspective. She plugged him into social justice causes, helped launch his Know Your Rights camp, and eventually took his last name. By 2022, they had welcomed a baby girl, sticking together through every bit of the controversy, flipping the script. This next player is about to get put on blast for allegedly crossing the line with a teammate's spouse, Joe Horn. Joe Horn wasn't just a player, he was a New Orleans icon, a four-time Pro Bowler, known for that legendary flip phone end zone stunt and a personality that lit up the Superdome. But back in 2001, he got pulled into a messy controversy. Easily one of the craziest teammate disputes in league history. The word on the street, he'd allegedly been with teammate Willie Roaf's wife and was the actual father of her baby. That gossip blew up instantly. From local radio to the casino floors and dinner tables, the whole city was buzzing with the theory that Horn was the daddy of Roaf's little girl. It got so intense that the speculation actually started fracturing the bond inside the Saints' own locker room. Supporters even pinned the squad's late-season meltdown on the drama, watching them go from playoff hopefuls to dropping 4 games in a row. Finally, Horn snapped. He went straight to ESPN to clear his name, stating flatly, "I didn't touch Willie Roaf's wife." He insisted he'd never even met the woman. He slammed the cowards in the Big Easy, spreading the trash, and dared anyone with evidence to say it to his face. Eventually, Roaf had to step up and speak out. 2. He confessed things at home were shaky. But he stood firm on one thing: that baby was absolutely his flesh and blood. "She's got my features. Long hands, long feet," he told the press. "I know in my gut she is mine." To shut everyone up for good, Roaf took a paternity test, but away from the cameras. Things were getting nasty. Roaf claimed the chatter wrecked his peace of mind and pushed him to the brink of skipping town and leaving New Orleans entirely. Head coach Jim Haslett tore into the local press, ripping them for peddling what he called toxic rumors that damaged real families. Meanwhile, Horn didn't budge. He admitted the lie humiliated his own wife and 3 kids, but swore he and Roaf were still cool. "We are good," he insisted. "I could pick up the phone and dial him this second." Once the DNA results proved Roaf was the dad, the noise finally faded. But what's your take? You think there was any fire behind that smoke? All right, shifting gears to another heavy hitter. Let's talk about Ryan Shazier. Shazier was a beast for the Pittsburgh Steelers' first-round talent, 2-time Pro Bowler, and the undisputed soul of that defense. However, away from the gridiron, his world turned into a whirlwind of cheating allegations and pain that had zero to do with the game. Back in 2017, Shazier took a hit against the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football that ended his career right there. That collision left him unable to move and forced him into major surgery just to stabilize his spine. He officially hung up his cleats in 2020, but while everyone cheered his physical recovery, his private life began falling apart. Jump to 2025. Shazier, who'd been married to Michelle since 2019, got caught in a social media firestorm. Michelle went public, accusing him of stepping out and leaking supposed texts he sent to a woman named Marie. Those messages were apparently explicit, even referencing books on how to be better in bed, cheating at its absolute peak. "I'm done hiding this. You can have him. I deserve better," she posted before deleting it. Ryan is a liar and a cheater. Fans were floored. They'd been a pair for 7 years, sticking together through his paralyzed days, and shared a 4-year-old boy named Lion. Shazier also has a 9-year-old, R.J., from a relationship before that. Ryan didn't wait to respond. He told TMZ, "Michelle and I are currently living apart and have separated. As we figure out our future, I just ask for prayers and privacy. Even with the chaos, he tried to keep it classy. He kept his focus on his non-profit for spinal injuries and his gig as an offensive assistant for the Steelers. Now, this next one is even crazier. Enter Ronnie Stanley. Stanley was a monster on the field, first-rounder, Pro Bowl selection, and the anchor for the Baltimore Ravens front line. During games, he was basically a brick wall, keeping his quarterback safe and opening lanes for a killer offense. But once the helmet came off, things were messy as hell. He'd been with Emily Cooch for almost 10 years, dating back to college, surviving a roller coaster ride that allegedly included him straying. Despite the baggage, they got engaged in 2021 and booked a massive destination wedding in Hawaii for 2022. Then, literally hours before they were supposed to say, "I do," Emily pulled the plug and called the whole thing off. The cause, according to her, it was Stanley's serial cheating habit. She spilled the tea on her sister Allison's podcast, describing the exact second she knew she couldn't go through with it. She remembered thinking, wait, did I really just cancel it? Is this permanent? What is happening right now? She mentioned the prenup caused friction, but the infidelity was the absolute final straw. Everyone was in shock, and the internet ate it up not just for the cheating, but the drama of scrapping a wedding at the finish line. Emily's interview really pulled back the curtain on what went down. She opened up about the heavy toll that romance took on her soul, confessing, "I honestly had no clue how to just exist as an individual. Linking up at such a tender age blurred the lines," she admitted, eventually wondering, who exactly am I when I'm standing all alone? As for Stanley, absolute radio silence regarding the called-off nuptials and those messy infidelity rumors. Neither the Ravens nor the star tackle have uttered a single word about the podcast expose. Sound off in the comments with your take on this mess. Make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe on NFL Rivals so you are locked in for the next update.